Hi guys, tonight we're going to review box plots or box and whiskers plots, and we're going to use the interquartile range to talk about another measure of spread, which is the interquartile range. And we had discussed earlier in this unit, how do we tell if an outlier is really an outlier? We have a formula for that, and we're going to look at that tonight as well. So as I said in class today, the diagram on your notes did not come out the way it was supposed to look, so it should look like this right here. Here's a whisker, and we have a big rectangle in the middle. And what also does not show up on your graph is we need to draw a line right about here in this diagram. So we're going to take a look at first the 5-number summary, and we need 5 numbers in order to construct a box plot. And we can get all this on our calculator when we put our data in list 1, and we're going to practice with this in class tomorrow. We get that 5-number summary. And the 5-number summary are the minimum, quartile 1, the lower quartile, the median, quartile 3 or the upper quartile, and the maximum. Okay, again, so we have the minimum, or the abbreviation for that is min. We have quartile 1, which is the lower quartile. The median, the abbreviation for that is m. Quartile 3, which is the upper quartile, and the maximum, and we use the abbreviation for that as max, or max. So we're going to take all 5 of these for the 5-number summary, and we're going to go ahead and label the points, label these on the box plot. So our minimum is our lowest point on the box plot. Our maximum is our highest point. Our median is this line in the middle, and then quartile 1 is right here, and quartile 3 is right here. And we're going to use quartile 1 and quartile 3 to talk about outliers today. So the edges of this box are formed. Make this a little bigger so we can see it. The edges of the box are formed by the quartiles, quartile 1 and quartile 3. The median is the line inside the box. That's our middle of the data. So it's the line inside the box. Sorry I'm moving this around so much on you. And the minimum and the maximum are attached to the box with what we call whiskers. And they're attached to the side of the box. So let's take a look at that diagram again. So the edges of the box here and here are formed by the quartiles. The median is the line right here in the middle, and it's inside the box. The minimum and the maximum are attached to the box, the sides of the box, with what we call whiskers. So this would be the whiskers right here, and here is our box. So we're going to use quartile 1 and quartile 3 to figure out if a number in a set of data is an outlier or not. And as a measure of spread, we have used the IQR. And that tells us how spread out the middle 50% of the data is. So we use this as a basis to determine how far out a value needs to be in order to be called an outlier. So statisticians came up with this rule. It's called the 1.5 IQR rule. And we use the interquartile range and the factor of 1.5 to determine if, in fact, a number in a set of data is an outlier. So the first thing we need to do is to calculate the IQR, and that's just quartile 3 minus quartile 1. Then we multiply IQR by 1.5. So that number that we get by multiplying the IQR by 1.5, we add to quartile 3, and any value above this number is considered an outlier. We do the same with quartile 1, except for this time we subtract the number we get by multiplying the IQR by 1.5, and we subtract that from quartile 1, and any value below that amount is considered a low outlier. And this one here would be considered a high outlier, if I could spell. H-I-G-H, there we go. So how do you determine or decide to use the mean and standard deviation or the median and the IQR to summarize the data numerically? That's what we're going to take a look at real quickly. So which one we're looking at is less sensitive to outliers? And we talked about this with mean and median. So mean and standard deviation will go hand in hand when we're talking about a set of data. So we use the mean and standard deviation when there are no outliers. And that is because their data formulas take into every value into account. So the data to figure these out uses every value in the data set. So median and IQR we use when there are outliers. And why do we use outliers? The median IQR on those outliers, because they only look at the middle of the data. The median IQR look at the middle of the data. And so they're not using every single point, and therefore they are less sensitive to outliers. Okay, so now it's your turn to look at this box and whiskers plot right here. This is Mr. Sanchez's period 1 or math 1 quiz results. So in question 1 we're looking for the median. So keep in mind that for the median we are looking for this line right here. So what does the median represent? What is the median grade for Mr. Sanchez's period 1 math quiz results? Question number 2, you're looking for the IQR. So for the IQR, keep in mind that that is quartile 3 minus quartile 1. So quartile 1, and here's quartile 3. And we're going to use the 1.5 IQR rule in class tomorrow to determine if certain sets of data points in a set of data are outliers or are not outliers. And we can find high outliers and we can find low outliers. And that is the plan for in class tomorrow. Have a good night.